What is up? It's the Raw Prospect Podcast, episode 41. We are back tonight with another episode. The NFL Draft is in 48 hours from now. So we're going to get into a full round one mock draft later in the podcast. But before that, we want to give our thoughts on The Last Dance, the ESPN 10-part documentary on Michael Jordan's Bulls that premiered this past Sunday. And then we're going to get into a NBA under 25 draft where Emmy and I draft a starting five and a six-man composed of primarily just players under the age of 25 because these players are the future of the league. So that should be fun, and we'll put our teams on Twitter and y'all can vote for who y'all think drafted the better team. So before we do that, let's get to our thoughts on the MJ documentary. Emmy, do you have anything you want to say? Any thoughts, opinions?
I just needed this documentary. I just want to say that. Just thank ESPN right now. They came in clutch for us, for all of us sports fans out there. And for me, it's just so interesting to see what the perceptions were of him, of Michael Jordan, like at that time, because obviously I wasn't born in that was before my time.
Yeah.
So it's just really cool to see all of the stuff that was going on within the organization and just learning about all of that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing that people are taking away from this, or at least the first two episodes, is how they portray general manager Jerry Krause. He's kind of like the bad guy. He was trying to break up that dynasty that they had going right before that 97-98 season. And I think the best thing about Michael was that he didn't care what other people wanted. He just wanted to win, and if you didn't want to win with him, he didn't give a crap about you. Like, he could care less about you. So, and then I think they did a great job explaining the Scottie Pippen story in the second episode, which focused more on Pippen and how, he was hurt. Jordan didn't publicly criticize him, but said in the documentary that he wished he had done his surgery right after the previous season instead of during training camp or whatever. But, I thought they did a great job of that, and they kind of left you with a cliffhanger at the end there with, he wants out, and then it just, kind of ended, and I guess we'll find out later as to how all that goes down in more detail. So overall, like you said, sports fans everywhere needed this. And of course, they've done a great job with it. So I'm excited for the next 8 episodes, as crazy as that might seem. It was overall just a good thing for sports fans everywhere.
Yeah, something to look forward to.
Yeah,
Another
exactly.
thing that I noticed is that you see a lot of times on Twitter people describe Jordan's dynasties as like this perfect situation with Hall of Famers alongside him. The organization was stable.
Right.
That was not the case. So I think it's interesting when you're comparing LeBron and Jordan. Why doesn't this get brought up more? Being able to win with all this turmoil going on around him. I think that's a very underrated part of this whole ordeal with the Bulls.
Right. Yeah, I agree. It's definitely something underrated that people don't really or haven't really been able to understand or put their heads around before this documentary. But it's definitely something to consider in future debates. I think I said everything I need to say about the doc. I think we should move on to our NBA under 25 fantasy draft, if that's okay with you.
Yep, let's do it.
So I have granted you the first pick. I have a little note card here. I'm going to be writing down our picks as we make them, so I can later put our teams on Twitter for the public to vote. I have granted you the first pick, so we are drafting a starting five and then a six-man. So
Alrighty.
let's do it.
First overall pick, I'm taking Luka Doncic from my Mavericks. This was a no-brainer for me. Just his feel for the game, his leadership. It's clear that he at just such a young age, he's already making his teammates better. And I think him or a guy like Trae Young, I think it's easier to build a team around Luka just simply based on the fact that he's a 6'8" point guard. I think their skill sets are similar, but I think the size is the biggest difference, and making it easier to build a team around him, his versatility.
Okay, that was a pretty easy pick for you. I think with the second pick in our draft, I'm going to go with Jason Tatum, forward for the Boston Celtics. If you watched basketball prior to this whole coronavirus pandemic and you watch the Boston Celtics play, it's clear Tatum has emerged as their clear number one scoring option. I believe he averaged 30 points in the month of either February or March. I believe it was March.
Yeah, I think it was March.
Yeah, he was averaging over 30 points in the month of March before the season was suspended. He is eligible for a contract extension this summer, and he will command max salary. So I think, if the Celtics don't give it to him, they're pretty stupid and crazy. But he just turned 22. If you watch basketball, you see the skill, and he's an emerging all-star, not just all-star, but maybe even superstar. I think he can get to that level. So.
Yeah, I think so too. He's already a great defender, right. And I think the biggest jump is just his shot selection. He's taken a lot more threes this year, a lot less the long twos. He's been a lot more efficient just based on better shot selection.
Right.
Okay. So. Third pick, I'm going to take. This is when it gets a little bit more interesting. I think I'm going to go with a wing guy. No, I'm going to take another guard. I'm going to take Devin Booker.
Okay. Any thoughts on that?
I think I wanted a shooter to go well next to Luka. I think being off ball, I think Devin Booker will be in a position to thrive like he did this year with Ricky Rubio. Obviously, he's never been with a playmaker as good as Luka. So I think Luka will be able to put him in good positions to get open looks. And obviously, this is not the greatest defensive duo, but I think I'll address that in the later picks.
Okay. I want to get a skilled big man, so I'm going to go with Karl Anthony Towns from the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I know the Timberwolves were really struggling, but I do like Towns' skill set and versatility. How could you not? I think I just like his versatility, his skill set, his offensive game. We already know what he can do offensively. He's great around the basket. But I think his defense was sort of improving prior to the suspension of this season. And I think it's important to have a skilled big like him in today's NBA. So I'm going to go, he can rebound, do all the stuff you want him to. So I'm going to go with Karl Anthony Towns.
Okay, that's a good pick. I think the biggest thing that the perception of Towns after Jimmy Butler left is that he's soft, is that he can't lead his team. But when you look at the numbers, when he's off the court, the Timberwolves were 29th in offensive rating when he was off the court. On the court, they were 13th.
So
considerable. It's very clear that the team around him is just not sufficient at the moment. So I think it's going to be clear now that he has D'Angelo Russell that he can lead a team to the playoffs. So we'll just have to wait and see. My next pick, I need a defender. I'm gonna take Jaylen Brown.
Okay.
Defense versatility, being able to create a shot off the bounce, can guard anybody in the league from 1 through 4. Just a really solid player, and also a improved shot creator as well. He can shoot step backs now. He's got a whole arsenal of moves. He will add a lot of defense to this team.
All right, I need a primary ball handler.
All right, how do you have so far? Just so the viewers can know.
So, Emmy has picked Luka Doncic, Devin Booker, and Jaylen Brown. And I'm going on my third pick, but I have Jason Tatum and Karl-Anthony Towns.
Okay.
So, I do need a primary ball handler. So, I think I'm going to go with... Ooh, this is tough. I'm going to go with... I'm going to go with Donovan Mitchell.
Okay. Solid pick. Obviously a prolific scorer and also an underrated defender as well.
Right.
He's not too tall for at his position, but he's definitely not a liability by any means. So
right.
That's a solid pick.
I like his... Okay. Obviously, he's a great offensive player, super athleticism. He's young. He still has time to, even though he's not a defensive menace yet, he still has time to develop on that end of the floor. But as you said, he is no scrub on that end of the floor. So, high upside, great athleticism. He'll give me a ball handler, reliable scorer. So I think solid pick. All right, so this is your fourth selection. So
so far I have Doncic, Booker, and Jaylen Brown. So I'm going to go ahead and take a big man. I'm going to take Bam Adebayo.
Good pick. Great pick.
Yeah, obviously, I think he's going to be in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. Mark my words. I think in the next few years, I think he will win one. Definitely. Based on the fact that he can guard all 5 positions. I think he's one of the only players in the league where you can say that he has quick feet for a big man, switch on to anyone, and elite rim protection as well. So,
okay. Let's see. Okay, so you have Doncic, Booker, Brown, and Adebayo. I have Tatum, Towns, Mitchell. I do need another guard type player. I'm gonna go with
out of the guards available, you got Ben Simmons, you got SGA, Jamal Murray, Zach LaVine, De'Aaron Fox, John Morant.
I'm going to go with Ben Simmons.
Okay.
Too good to pass up. He does have limitations, as we all know, in terms of shooting the ball and stretching the floor. But I think I can make up for that in other areas. He's a great playmaker, and I like that about him, and an awesome defender. So
yeah, I think he's a lock for all defensive first team this year.
Right. So I think he can complement Donovan Mitchell and kind of make up for some of his, not deficiencies on that end, but just
lack of size.
Just lack of size, exactly. So I'm going to go with Ben Simmons. So this is your 5th pick of the draft. So go ahead.
All right, I'm gonna pick Jaren Jackson Jr.
Okay.
Power forward from the Memphis Grizzlies. He still needs to work on not fouling so much. He's a bit antsy when it comes to trying to block shots, but I think that'll just go away with time. He just needs a little bit more experience. He's really quick on his feet, like Adebayo, and he already has a really good jump shot, so he'll be able to spread the floor.
Good pick. I like that pick. You can't go wrong with a guy who's, I believe, I had something written down on Jaren Jackson, but I can't find it. But he's definitely has that upside. So I'm gonna with my 5th pick. I'm gonna go. I need another 4. I'm thinking about it so hard. I think I can't pass up Zion Williamson. So I'm gonna go Zion. As we all know, he had an injury, so he didn't play much. He'd only played like 19 or 20 games. So small sample size here, but in those 19, 20 games he played, he was phenomenal. I think he averaged 23.7 points per game on just 28 minutes, 63% true shooting percentage. And, New Orleans wasn't right there for the playoffs, but they were, 4 games back, and who knows what would have happened. I think Memphis would have ultimately held on, but, I think just his playmaking, athleticism, he definitely has room to grow. I think he only attempted 12 threes, so I think he has room to grow in that area, and he still can grow on the defensive end. But he's only 19 years old, and he's only going to get better as long as he stays healthy.
Yeah, I agree. I like that pick. I was wondering if he was going to drop so I could grab him as a 6-man, but obviously, But
so let's recap. Let's recap the starting fives real quick. So for you, it is Luka Doncic, Devin Booker, Jaylen Brown, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Bam Adebayo. And for me, it is Ben Simmons, Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, Zion Williamson, and Karl Anthony Towns. So let's go ahead and pick our 6th man. You're up first for that.
Alrighty. Let's see. So in terms of 6th man, I think I'm looking for a guy that can just get me a bucket whenever I need one. In terms of guys available, Trae Young's still up there. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's up there. And also a guy like John Morant would be pretty solid. But I think I'm going to go with SGA.
Okay.
I know that's controversial not to go with Trae Young there, but I just don't think in terms of a bench unit you want a guy that struggles on defense, because it's harder to make up for those deficiencies within a bench unit.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, good pick. He's been a vital part of Oklahoma City's success this season, so you can't go wrong with that. For my sixth man, I know that you got players like Trae Young and John Morant up there, but I think I'm going to go with... I'm thinking about Brandon Ingram, but I think I'm going to go with Trae Young. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Trae Young.
Yeah, obviously you can't go wrong either way.
Yeah.
I think Trae Young, for me, I feel like he's pretty close to his ceiling as a player. I may be biased because, the whole Mavericks-Atlanta rivalry with Luka and Trae. Yeah. But I think giving you buckets and then defense is always going to be a struggle for him. I think he can probably get a little better as a passer in terms of assist-to-turnover ratio, but I don't know. That's about it.
Yeah. I'm just looking for a guy who can get me a bucket anytime I want it, and he's the dude. I think Jason Tatum and even though it's only a one-man benching, I think Tatum and Mitchell and Simmons and even Zion Simmons is an elite defender, and then the others are good to really good defenders. So I think we both have great teams. Obviously, there's so much great young talent. We didn't even get to guys like John Morant, Brandon Ingram. The list goes on and on. De'Aaron Fox, D'Angelo Russell. There's so much. These guys are the future of the league. So we'll post these teams on Twitter probably tomorrow sometime, and y'all can vote on who you think is the better team and which team you'd rather have in a playoff series or something. We'll come up with something like that. So, but that was fun. We'll definitely do something like that again in the future if we do in fact get NBA back. Hopefully we do. But since the NFL draft is in 2 days, let's go. Emmy and I collaborated last night to do a full round one mock draft, so we're going to get into that now. So we're just going to quickly run through each pick. We're going to try not to ramble. So hopefully we'll be able to catch ourselves if we do. But let's go ahead and just run through these. So obviously, as you guys know, with the first pick, and we did include trades, by the way. Just going to say that. With the first pick, the Bengals are going to take Joe Burrow, quarterback LSU. And with the second pick, the Redskins are going to take Chase Young, defensive end, Ohio State. Go ahead. I think this is, these are too easy. I think we'll get both these right. I don't think, the Redskins have said they're taking calls for the number 2 pick, but you can't pass up a player with Chase Young's size, talent, and athleticism. He's going to be he has the talent to be an elite pass rusher in the NFL. Obviously, if you had to point out a weakness, it would be diagnosing the run or something like that. But he's probably the best physically and fit prospect in this draft. And then with Burrow, insane season at LSU. You see, he's the ultimate competitor. He doesn't have the greatest arm, but he can make the throws you need him to. And I think, given the other concerns with the other quarterbacks, which we'll get to later, he's the pick there. Any comments? I
think with Burrow, the biggest thing that people like to mention is that he was only good for 1 year. But I actually think, if anything, that's a good thing. I think being able to show improvement, show that you can improve over time, I think that's much more valuable.
I agree.
And also his ability to just improvise.
Right.
You see his plays outside the pocket. I think that's when he's at his best, to be honest. Just his ability to just see the entire field and make plays when there just looks like there's nothing.
Right, I agree. So I think those will be the first 2 picks in Thursday's draft. And really, this number 3 pick is where the draft really starts, because we kind of already know what's going to happen with the first 2. So the Lions did have the 3rd pick in the draft, but we have a trade. The Carolina Panthers are trading up from 7 and a first-round pick swap with the Lions. And they also are going to give up, I believe, their 3rd round this year and their 2nd round next year in this trade to come up to number 3 and get linebacker, hybrid linebacker, outside linebacker, safety, whatever you want to call him, Isaiah Simmons from Clemson. What do you think of this pick? What are your thoughts on Simmons?
He was clearly the leader on that Clemson defense.
Right.
You're looking at a guy who's just gonna just make plays wherever you put him. And I think that's just super valuable in today's NFL. Obviously, injuries happen, so you got to be able to have guys that can switch to different positions, do different things. And Simmons can rush. He can cover in zone. And if you need him to cover man every once in a while, he can do that as well. So, what more could you ask from a guy who's?
Yeah, he's a rare athlete at his size, 6'4", 230. So he has great size, great athlete, tall, long-limbed, fast. He might be, or he was at Clemson, one of the 2 or 3 fastest guys on the field at all times in any given game, I think. Just watching his tape. Again, I think the biggest value you get with him is he's great at mirroring tight ends and man coverage, and he can even cover a lot of slot receivers. We saw him do that a lot at Clemson, and he more than held his own against some very talented slot receivers. I think that's his biggest value. He can do all the things a prototypical linebacker can do, run sideline to sideline, hit running backs, make tackles. He's a very good blitzer with his size. He's just a hybrid all-around 4-down player, which you can employ in a lot of ways. And if the Panthers did this trade, I think it's a win-win for both teams because I think Detroit needs to trade down to accumulate more draft capital. So,
yeah, if you're the Lions, you're just all these years passing by with Stafford. The clock is ticking. I think he's entering his 30s. I think he's 31 or 32 now.
Right.
And you just need to build a team around him as soon as possible. In order to do that, you just got to make the sacrifices of the certain top picks to get more picks, so that you can fill more holes in your roster. So I think that's just more valuable to them at this time for their franchise.
Okay, so with the Giants at number 4, we went with offensive line. We went with Tristan Wirfs, offensive tackle from Iowa. Some people see him as more of a guard, and that's probably where he more likely thrive in the NFL. But he has the ability to play tackle as well. And so I think that's the biggest thing with him is his versatility, his ability to probably play inside and outside. And the Giants can kind of experiment with him and figure out where he fits best. Either way, I think he's going to help in some form or fashion, and that's what the Giants need. They need more protection for Daniel Jones. I think if he's weak in one area, he did struggle against some pure speed rushers early in his career at Iowa. But I think that's something he can improve on by modifying his technique. And if he has to, at worst case scenario, he moves inside and is a very good guard at the NFL level.
Right, exactly. For the Giants, they just need as many bodies as possible.
Right.
So I think this pick just makes the most sense out of the guys that were available.
Okay. So with that, the Miami Dolphins have 3 picks in the first round. Their first coming at number 5. And with this pick, despite all of his injury concerns, we decided that Tua is too good to pass up. Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback, Alabama. Obviously, you talk about Joe Burrow's numbers last year, and obviously they were probably the greatest that we've ever seen, 60 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. But let's not act like Tua Tagovailoa didn't also have crazy video game numbers as well. You look at his college career, 3 years, well, 2.5 years, 87 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Like, are you kidding me? Like, if this guy stays healthy, with his accuracy, with his ability to make plays with his legs, with his ability to process information, he's a smart guy, can read defenses, pinpoint accuracy, the most accurate quarterback in this. Well, you can argue, but I think he's the most accurate in this draft. Doesn't have the greatest arm, but I think as long as he, again, is able to stay healthy, he has a very high floor and a very high ceiling.
I agree. It's just a lot of the fact that in the pocket he is just lethal, and a lot of people think that the Dolphins may go Justin Herbert with this pick, and obviously Justin Herbert's talent is there, but me and Michael just decided that he was too stagnant throughout his college career. Right. So what I mean by that is just that through his 4 years with Oregon,
right,
he didn't improve at all. He had the same problems in his freshman year as he did his senior year. So to me, that's concerning. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you're not going to put in the work to improve, then it just all goes to waste. And also, I think Justin Herbert's footwork is just an underrated thing that people aren't considering here. His footwork is just really sloppy at times. And sure, at some games he was great, but he's just simply too inconsistent.
Right. So we need to move a little quicker. Let's go to the Chargers. We took Jedrick Wills, offensive tackle, Alabama, 2 straight Alabama players selected. With Wills, he's a very good pass protector already. Very high upside player, difference maker in the run game, 6'5", 315, bulldozer in the run game. You could argue that he has the highest ceiling among this year's offensive line prospects. He's just that good. I think the worst case scenario, as with Wirfs, is he has to move inside and play guard. But we decided that because of our concerns with Justin Herbert, and as Emmy said, it's not to say that Herbert's not talented and couldn't work, but we just think the need for offensive line with the Chargers was more urgent than the need for a quarterback. Because people don't remember, but Tyrod Taylor has led teams to the playoffs before. Like, he's no scrub. Like, let's not act like he can't play football. Right. So I think, they'll experiment with him, and if he doesn't work, they can go out and get a Jameis Winston or a Cam Newton. So I think this was the pick for the Chargers at 6.
Yeah, I agree. In terms of when you're in a rebuild phase, you got to build your team from inside out for sure.
Right.
In the trenches, those are the most important parts of your football team. So we just value that more at this point.
Okay, so let's move on to number 7. Remember, the Panthers originally held this pick, but they traded up with the Lions in a first-round pick swap trade. So the Lions now hold this pick, and they still get their guy in cornerback Jeff Okudah from Ohio State. 6'1", 200 pounds. He's actually gotten a lot of Jalen Ramsey comps, so pretty high regards for him. I think it's true. I think he's a true number one corner who will be able to eventually travel with number one receivers at the NFL level, and I think he really fits any scheme. I wouldn't be surprised if he becomes a star. I think next to Chase Young, he might be the second or third best defensive prospect in this draft. I think there was a stat that said he did not accumulate a single pass interference or holding call last year at Ohio State, which is very, very impressive. He's disciplined, knows how to play football. You can't go wrong with this pick. And you're getting good value at 7.
Yeah, exactly.
So, do you have anything
you
to
hit
add?
Everything on the nail there. I think we can move on.
Okay. Why don't you talk about Arizona Cardinals? With the 8th pick, they select Derek Brown, defensive tackle, Auburn.
Yeah. For the Cardinals, it's a lot of the same situation as the Chargers. You just need beef in the middle of your team.
Right.
That's the most important parts of your squad, and I think they have talent on this roster, obviously, and the priority is defense for them. So I think this would be a guy that can beef up the interior of your defense and help you stop the run.
Right, I agree. With Brown, I think even though his great size at 6'4", 325, that's what he measured at the combine. He has the versatility to play a number of roles in a number of schemes, from the nose to a defensive tackle, more like 3 technique, to even maybe in some scenarios on the outside as a defensive end. He's an impact run defender. He will improve there. He will make an impact in that regard immediately. I think he's just a great low-risk prospect with all-pro upside that will make an impact where the Cardinals probably need it the most, which is in the trenches. So,
right, exactly.
You can't go wrong with that pick. The 9th pick is the Jacksonville Jaguars. They have the 9th and the 20th pick, and they're one of those teams who, they've made a lot of trades. They've traded away most of the players from that 2017 AFC Championship defense that merely lost to the New England Patriots. So with this pick, we decided to go the second best defensive tackle in this draft, Javon Kinlaw. Look, he's not as refined as Derek Brown is, but I think that just means he hasn't reached his ceiling. And I think his ceiling is aside of all the defensive tackles in this draft. And again, we're not talking about Chase Young. He's a defensive end. Of all the defensive tackles in the draft, he has the most upside of anybody. He's very athletic, can get upfield consistently. This is high risk reward. If they hit on this pick, he could become the next, I don't know. He's going to be a very good player at the next level. His athleticism, you can mold him in a couple different ways. He can play in a couple different positions. But I think the biggest thing here is you have the need for it because you just traded away Calais Campbell, and he's the most athletic defensive tackle with the highest upside. And you got to take risks when you're rebuilding. So,
exactly.
Anything to add there?
Yeah, that's the perfect situation for him to go to. Just a place where he'll have time to improve and succeed. So I like that pick.
I do too. So the 10th pick went to the Browns, who select Andrew Thomas, offensive tackle, Georgia. Do you have anything to say about this?
Obviously offensive line problems for the Browns last year. They were well documented.
Right.
But a key thing here is they need specifically the tackle, because Baker Mayfield, a lot of people don't know this, the way his footwork sets up with his right foot back at the start of every play, he actually takes an extra step than most other quarterbacks. So that gives defensive ends a better angle to get to him. So even more so, the need for a tackle is highlighted there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think with Thomas, he's going to have competition. This is one of the best offensive tackle draft class that we've seen in a while. The top 5 prospects are unbelievable. They all have their upside and their strengths, and But I think with Thomas, I think he brings the physical gifts, the football IQ, and he has experience in that pro-style scheme against elite-level SEC competition that you can argue make him the best offensive line prospect in this draft at 6'5", 320. So I think just that experience playing in a pro-style scheme already will help him. And
exactly,
it's good value for the Browns at 10. All right, so then we get into those are top 10. We get into kind of the more, I guess, interesting part of the draft once you get past that top 10. We have a lot of receivers coming up, and we start with Jerry Jeudy at number 11 to the New York Jets. Comments? Thoughts?
All right. You're getting a guy who's an elite route runner, just a route technician with good speed too. The thing with Jerry Jeudy is I think he hasn't gotten as much spotlight as he deserved because of CeeDee Lamb.
Right.
But I think he is the best receiver in this draft. Right. I think he's the best fit for the Jets, considering that they lost Robbie Anderson this year. So they need a guy that can just be reliable, get open in all matchups and all situations, and help Sam Darnold out. So
right. You hit it on the head. I think he is the best and maybe most exciting wide receiver prospect in this draft, and maybe since Amari Cooper came out in 2015. You can make that argument. I think he profiles as a true number 1. He gives the Jets, he filled that need for the Jets. He has big playability downfield in catch and run situations. I think he can play any spot in any offense. He just has all the skills. He doesn't profile as the biggest guy. He's only 6'1", 190. I think that's kind of been a knock on him, but at the end of the day, he's going to have an opportunity to improve, to get stronger with these elite NFL strength coaches. I think it's not going to be too big of a problem. So
right, and especially in today's NFL,
right, where
you see guys like Tyreek Hill and
exactly,
even Antonio Brown, guys like that who aren't the tallest, they can still be elite.
Okay, so why not you? With the 12th pick, the Raiders select C.J. Henderson, cornerback, Florida. Anything to say about this pick?
For the Raiders, this is just a defensive focused draft for them. They need to focus on improving that secondary and just making sure they fill those holes that still need to be filled. So I think this is a really solid selection. I think he's one of those guys that his floor is higher than all of the other available cornerbacks, which makes him a safer pick in my eyes. And if he does and get to that elite level, then that makes it even more of
Right. I think if you had to point out a weakness at Florida, he did rack up quite a few pass interference penalties in the course of his 3-year career at Florida. But that can be fixed with some good coaching. He has a tendency to be kind of grabby and panicky at times when he gets beat, but I think that can be fixed with good coaching. Otherwise, I think he can improve as a tackler and run support, but his competitiveness, his smarts, his skills, his size, everything, he has the intangibles. He might have, a rocky first couple games, but as you mentioned, he has a very high floor and a pretty high ceiling. So I don't think you can go wrong here.
Right, exactly.
So with that, the 49ers with the 13th pick, there are rumors that they are going to trade this pick, but Emmy and I couldn't find a trade, so we thought, why not get younger in the secondary and go with safety from LSU, Grant Delpit.
Right. Some mock drafts have him going in the top 10, so I see this as a really good value pick. You can't really go wrong here. You already have an elite defense, and you have the chance to even take it a step higher. So why not give that the chance?
Right. I think
it's worth it.
Again, with him, he's not the great. He has room to improve in the tackling department. But if you look at him, length, 6'3", strength, 205, he's probably going to end up getting stronger once he gets to the NFL. And his competitiveness, his speed, his intangibles, he's the total package. And he has a very high ceiling. So, probably the best safety overall in this draft. And we just thought it's not an immediate need for the Niners, but there's such a complete roster. It doesn't hurt to get younger in today's NFL at any position. So,
exactly.
So, that was our pick for the 49ers at 13. 14, we went with, I believe, our fourth offensive tackle already, and Mekhi Becton to the Buccaneers from Louisville. Just to sum him up, he might be the most athletic, physical freak of the offensive tackles. He does have some, I guess, worries in terms of pass protection, but I think if he gets in a good system, you can coach him up, and I think with his athletic ability, he has such a high ceiling that I think if you were the Buccaneers with all those offensive weapons, you would be, I guess, you would regret this if you didn't end up taking him and he became a stud somewhere else. When you have a 42-year-old quarterback like Brady, get him some protection. Just be on the safe side. So that would be a good pick for them at 14. We're almost halfway done. The Broncos have been...
Wait. Before we move on, though, while we're in the Bucs, do you want to add anything about Gronk joining them?
Oh, yes, I forgot. I think this was bound to happen at some point. I just kind of had the feeling he was going to come back when he retired even. He was going to come back at some point, whether that was take a year off and come back now, which is what he's done, or I guess if they were making a playoff run or somebody was making a playoff run and he wanted to jump on and win another Super Bowl, he might, jump on a team middle of the season or something like that. But reuniting with Brady, obviously, the Patriots get good value. They give Gronkowski and a 7th-round pick to the Buccaneers, and they receive another 4th-round pick in return. So I think it's a win-win. He only has, it's not like you're paying him an insane amount of money. It's 1 year, $10 million, and you can get out of it after. They have probably the most complete tight end corps in the league now with Gronk, O.J. Howard, and Cameron Brate at Brady's disposal. So when you look at the weapons, I think O.J. Howard will be excited to learn from a guy like Gronk, one of the greats at the position, for probably just a year. It'll probably just end up being a year, but it's just it's an exciting time to be an NFL football fan. So things are changing.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head, really. Just the chemistry that Brady already has with Gronk.
Right.
I think that's a big deal. Having a guy that he's comfortable with to begin with. That way he can get through the first few weeks of the season and get comfortable with the other guys gradually.
Right.
I like the move.
I do too. It's a win-win, as I mentioned, so I think it'll work out for both franchises. So the Broncos at 15 have been very, I guess, outspoken, or it's been reported at multiple from multiple sources about their motivation to take a receiver and maybe even trade up for a receiver to go along with Courtland Sutton. So we gave them CeeDee Lamb from Oklahoma. They rave about his ability after the catch to make plays after the catch. Obviously, that's well documented. He's a big play acrobat downfield. He can go up and make some catches. Decent size, 6'2", 190. I think if he polishes up his route running some, he's a strong number 2, and in most teams, number 1. We'll just have to see how that dynamic plays out with another young guy like Courtland Sutton and him. But 2 good toys to play with for Drew Lock in the Mile High City. So, good pick there.
Right, exactly. I think the speed, the top-off speed will really be needed on this team. Obviously, Sutton is the jump ball guy, and then you got the guy across from him being able to take the top off of the defense and just run and just go.
And make plays.
Big plays.
Make plays with the ball in his hands, for sure.
Yeah, that's just a dynamic that this team's been missing for years. Even in the days where Case Keenum was their quarterback. So it's a big deal for them.
Right. So with 16, we saw a strong need for the Falcons to go secondary. So we went with Christian Fulton, cornerback, LSU. Future starter at the NFL level, no doubt. I think he might not be a true number 1 shutdown corner, but he definitely has the skills to develop into one. He's fluid enough to mirror. He's competitive, battle-tested, obviously, playing against all those great receivers in the SEC, all those good quarterbacks. I think he'll be a mid. I think this is right where he'll actually go, whether it's to the Falcons or the Cowboys or the Dolphins. He could go in a number of spots here. We just thought the Falcons' need for a secondary cornerback was of great urgency. So that was the pick for the Falcons at 16. Do you have anything to add?
No, not really. Touched on everything.
Well, I'm going to let you hit on this pick, the Dallas Cowboys.
Okay. So, 17th pick, Dallas Cowboys. We decided to go with safety here. Xavier McKinney out of Alabama.
Right.
This has been a hole on our team for a few years now. What's his name? Jerry Jones' son. Yeah, he's come out and said that the focus in this draft is defense. So I thought, why not get a guy and fill a hole that's been in this roster for a while now? We've had Jeff Heath. We've had Kayvon Frazier.
Right.
So I think we just need an elite guy to round out that secondary and make a big defense in the defense.
Right. The biggest thing about McKinney to me is he doesn't have any super standout big weaknesses. He's a very good all-around player. Obviously, he's very instinctive. He's very intelligent. He played in multiple roles for that Nick Saban system down there in Tuscaloosa. He should be able to get on the field early in his career and make an impact in the back of Dallas's secondary. He can do just about anything in any scheme. And I think one of the most underrated aspects of his game is his ability to come up and play near the line of scrimmage and play in run support. So I think, he doesn't have any super big weakness. His instincts are there, his skills are there, and with some time and some experience, he could turn into a very good Pro Bowl level player for that Dallas defense. So, good pick for the Cowboys. So with the 18th pick, the Dolphins are going to go with Josh Jones, offensive tackle from Houston. Again, this offensive tackle class is very talented, probably one of the best we've seen in at least 5 years. Again, he's the 5th offensive tackle to go off the board. The need is there for the Dolphins. He has upside with his size. He has good athleticism, not great, but I think you get good value here at 18, and you fill a need because they have some work to do. And as you said earlier, with rebuilding teams like this, you got to build from the inside out. And this goes a long way in doing that. So, and I think the biggest thing for Miami is they get players who, although aren't the most talented at times, they get players who are gritty and who can be coached. And I think Josh Jones is a guy who is coachable, and even though he hasn't hit his ceiling and his development yet, or has probably a year or two to go to get there, I think Brian Flores can coach him up, and he'll fit well into that system.
Yeah, I agree. You really hit that on the head well with the way the Dolphins are building things there. I really like the way they're valuing guys that are just gritty and hard-nosed.
Right.
It can really change the culture of this team, so I like where they're going.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's go to the Raiders have another pick at 19, and we gave them C.J. Henderson earlier at 12. And so I think they have a need for receivers. And Henry Ruggs III is there at 19. Really, really good value. I don't think he'll actually end up dropping this far. I think he's more of a top 15 guy. But for the sake of this mock draft, the Raiders get great value. He's going to be, at the worst case scenario, Ruggs is going to be a complimentary receiver, whether it's number 2 or number 3, who can blow the top off the defense, big playability, and demands attraction from those safeties. That's his biggest value here. The Raiders, they got Tyrell Williams, the jump ball guy. They just need to build that wide receiver room, and he's the best player on the board here. So you get good value, and if he's coached up some, he could develop into a special player, as with, all the other great wide receivers in this class of 2020.
Right. You mentioned that he's a top 15 guy on most draft boards, but we thought about him at number 13 with the Niners, but I just think, I think if he does end up falling, if he ends up with the Raiders, I think this would be a really good fit.
Right.
So they have a couple of slot guys there in that wide receiver room, so they still need that guy that can put them over the top.
Right.
So I think he'll fit really well there.
Absolutely. So another team that also had an earlier pick at 20, the Jacksonville Jaguars, who have a ton of needs now, as we mentioned earlier, are going with A.J. Terrell, cornerback of Clemson. Any comments here?
Again, just from the standpoint of where the Jaguars are at, they just have to fill as many holes as possible and see where it goes.
Yeah.
I think this is a really safe pick. You saw him show up in big games and play really well. He has experience in all the big moments of college football and being in the playoff.
Yeah, I think
it's a really solid pick.
I think he's going to be a very solid corner in the NFL. Probably not our number one, but he will give value to any team that gets him in the mid to late first or second round even. I think he brings scheme versatility. He can play in the slot. He can play outside. And he'll be a quality starter in the league. So, good value for the Jaguars here at 20. So then we're coming down to the home run or the last stretch of the first round. So we'll go a little quicker here. The Eagles, they went with Justin Jefferson, wide receiver, LSU. Again, very talented receiver class. You saw what he did at LSU, put up insane numbers. He has the size, the speed, and he's gonna be a nice complement piece. We thought he'd complement Alshon Jeffrey well in that scheme. So, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think it's just Carson Wentz just needs more weapons. It's just clear to me over the last few years that he's really been lacking in the options that are available to throw. So replace Nelson Aguilar. I think you're getting a guy that has a higher ceiling and can make more big plays than Aguilar could. So I think this is really good value here.
Okay, so we'll go to number 22. The Vikings, who also have a pick at 25, are going with a guy who they've been projected to take in many mock drafts. Jeff Gladney, cornerback, TCU, one of the more underrated corners in this very good cornerback class. Cover artist, I think his flexibility to play outside or in the slot makes up for. He won't be great due to kind of his undersized stature. He won't be great against those power forward type receivers, but he can play a role in the slot or play outside with some of the more speedy guys in the league. And I think where you need depth at cornerback, especially with Xavier Rhodes aging, or did they trade him? I don't remember, but
yeah, I think they got rid of him. They cut him.
Well, this is the pick then at 22 or 25. I think you get him at 25 as well. But this is the pick for the Vikings at 22. So if you don't have anything to add, we'll go to the Patriots at 23. It was Patrick Queen or Kenneth Murray here for the Patriot. I think it's just a matter of, as you were mentioning, who can play the best, who fits best alongside Hightower in that defense. And I think in Murray, you're getting a guy who has all the physical traits and all the speed, everything. But I think you can play him outside a little more. He has the ability to, play that outside linebacker spot if you want him to a little bit more than Patrick Queen does. And he's a little better of a blitzer, I'd say. Although Patrick Queen's more adept in coverage. I think you get good value here for the Patriots because he fits best, in our opinions, alongside Hightower in that system.
Right. Yeah, you hit it on the head. The biggest thing when making this pick was who to go alongside Hightower, and we thought he was just the better fit.
Okay, so this is a guy that I believe you said you were pretty high on. The Saints come up at 24 and they pick Denzel Mims, wide receiver, Baylor.
Right. Denzel Mims, I think he's extremely underrated, criminally underrated even. He's a guy who's he doesn't have any glaring weaknesses, and he has good size as well. He's already a solid route runner, and I think and he showed the ability as well to read zones and sit in the pocket of the zones for his quarterback. So I think that'll be a key factor as well. Because most young receivers aren't able to read that. So he's already shown the IQ, and he has the ability to catch jump balls, and he's
right.
So I think Drew Brees will take advantage of him. I think he'll be a really good fit.
Like you mentioned, he definitely has the physical traits, 6'3", 205, and at the very least, he should carve out a role as a deep ball and red zone threat in that Saints offense. And we thought they need another guy in that receiver room, although they do have Sanders and Michael Thomas. They do need another guy, number 3 per se, in that receiver room. And I think with a good position coach, which obviously the Saints have a good system with Sean Payton down there in New Orleans, he could unlock potential in other areas and become a very good player. So
right. I think Emmanuel Sanders is really just a short-term fix. I think really Mims can be that long-term guy next to Thomas. So
exactly. So back-to-back receivers again here. We had the Colts trade up with the Vikings to come up with their need. They're a pretty complete roster. You know, they got Phillip Rivers, who I think has a little bit left in the tank and can get him 1 year of maybe 2 years of solid quarterback play. Definitely an upgrade from Jacoby Brissett in that regard. But we thought the need for a receiver and not trading up too far. The Colts, traded out of the first round when they gave their first-round pick to the Niners to acquire the defensive lineman. I keep forgetting his name. But we saw a need for a receiver here, so we took T. Higgins, wide receiver, Clemson. Oh, it's DeForest Buckner. They traded DeForest Buckner.
Yeah, I was about to say something there, but T. Higgins, I think Phillip Rivers in the past has liked those small, quick receivers. He's really made do and made the most out of those type of guys. So I think in terms of like the quick passing game, I think T. Higgins will be a really good threat for Phillip.
For sure. And I think his size, if anything, is kind of underrated. 6'4", 215.
Right.
Big playability. And even though he's very good in the short to intermediate area, which will help out Rivers a lot, I think he can also develop into a very good deep ball threat with his size. So
yeah, I agree. I was just referring to
for sure.
They're in the win now mode. So
right. So the Dolphins, with their third and final pick of the first round, are gonna fill a void. They did trade Minkah Fitzpatrick, as we all know, so they're gonna fill that void at safety with Kyle Duggar from Lenoir-Rhyne, Division II school. It's a good pick here. Obviously, if you don't know who he is, he's a safety from a smaller school in North Carolina who has supreme athleticism and is very coachable. I think you put him he's one of those grit guys, He has the upside and the athleticism and the smarts to become a really good player. It's just, can he, given that he didn't play at a big, against great competition. He wasn't at a big school. He doesn't have the most experience of guys in this draft, but I think he fits what Miami wants to do down there.
Right, and I think with their timeline, he fits it perfectly. You'll give him time to develop. As that team improves, he'll fit in well with them. So,
yeah. And definitely, I think the biggest thing with him is his athleticism. So they'll definitely be getting a guy who won't I don't think make as big as an impact as Minka did, but you're getting good value you're getting the bang for your buck at 26. I think if he ends up panning out. So then with the Seahawks, a very good player dropped to 27 for Seattle. I think with the uncertain future of Jadeveon Clowney, this was a need pick for Seattle, and I think we went with K'Lavon Chaisson, if that's how you say his name, outside linebacker, LSU. Very good value again here at 27. I think he's more of a top 20 guy.
Right. I actually considered him
on most
with my 17th pick for the Cowboys, but I think the fit is better here with Seattle.
Right, but in terms of Chaisson, or however you say his name.
Chaisson. I think it's Chaisson. I think it might be French or something.
Chaisson, okay. 6'4", 250. It's not often that you're going to find a guy with his speed, his durability, his length. I think he needs to grow his repertoire in terms of his pass rush moves and stuff like that. But I think he can improve that with some good coaching, and Seattle definitely has that. And Pete Carroll and the guys who do a great job with their defense in past years. I think he's an annual double-digit sack threat at the next level if he adds versatility into his pass rush repertoire.
Right, I agree. I think this is a really good fit. Seattle, obviously, in the past, they used to be known for their defense. So I think with them getting younger on their defense, I think it's a really good fit here.
Okay, so this was a pick that you were kind of the catalyst or the lead guy on this pick, with the Ravens taking J.K. Dobbins, running back Ohio State, at 28.
Right. I just thought with them filling the hole of defensive end, obviously that was a hole coming into the offseason, but with that hole being filled, I just thought with Mark Ingram aging, I thought with the way this offense is set up, having as many running back options as possible is going to be really valuable to them.
Yeah.
So I think with J.K. Dobbins, you're getting a guy that can instantly become a star. And in this offense, next to Lamar Jackson, I think that can be really lethal.
Yeah, I think he can be a number one once Mark Ingram, wherever his journey takes him. But I think he'll complement, for the time being, the other guys in that running back room very well. He's built low to the ground. He's good out of the backfield. He can catch the ball. He does all he does. And his instincts, his field vision is probably the most impressive thing to me.
Right.
So you're getting a very polished NFL running back, NFL caliber running back in Dobbins, and I think he might be the most polished running back of this draft class. Although it's deep and has talent, I think he's the most NFL ready.
Right, I agree. I think on the spectrum of running backs, I think he has the best hip mobility that I've seen. That's kind of an underrated trait for running backs, being able to make cuts and do different things, being able to contort and stuff like that.
So then with the 29th pick, let's finish up here real quick. The Titans got AJ Epinesa, defensive end, Iowa. He's some people are calling him a poor man's Cameron Jordan. So if he turns out to be that, it will be very good for the Titans at 29. Length, power, feel for working his way upfield into the backfield. He's more of a power guy, and I think if you're looking for speed, you'd probably go a different direction. But you can't go wrong here. He has the versatility to play a 3, 4, or 5 technique, and he'll make an impact one way or another for this Titans defense.
Right, I agree. Obviously, the Titans, they lost Casey in this offseason. So if they're going to make a run at the AFC Championship, maybe in the Super Bowl again, they definitely needed to beef up that defensive line and reboot.
Okay, take a deep breath. I think you know what's coming next. Try to control yourself. We can make the jokes after. The 30th pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Green Bay Packers select Cesar Ruiz. It might be Cesar, but we say Cesar Ruiz, offensive guard, Michigan.
So for those of y'all that are unaware, it's just an inside joke. We have nothing against Cesar Ruiz. We think he's a really talented player. We actually made a joke last night while we were making our mock draft, and so
it's all fun. I mean, this is meant to be all fun. I think we're rooting for the guy, obviously. I mean, I think, not necessarily making fun of him, but, just that fun, I guess. I don't know. It's a form of flattery, I guess.
I guess so.
We're rooting for the guy. And if he
but just from a football standpoint,
right, I
think he's going to fit perfectly with the Packers. Right. Obviously, they lost David Bakhtiari in the offseason. So he'll go in right there at guard, and hopefully they can beef up that interior, that offensive line. Over the past 3 years, they've been really solid at the tackle positions. But in terms of the interior, they just get smacked. So I think he'll fit in perfectly.
Okay, I agree. The last 2 picks. Okay, I'll address this one, and then you can address the last one with Kansas City. The 49ers did hold the 31st pick in this year's draft. But since they've been adamant about wanting to trade one or both picks to acquire more draft capital because they do not have a 2nd, 3rd, or 4th round pick, and they do want to trade back, we had a little fun. Since I'm a Steelers fan, I traded up to go and get our potential replacement for Roethlisberger. I don't think it hurts to take a chance on Justin Herbert at this point in the draft. Obviously, if you watched football last year, we know that Mason Rudolph is not the answer, and that Duck Hodges is a nice 3rd string, but is also not the answer at starting quarterback for the Steelers after Roethlisberger retires. And I think, when you look at Steelers quarterbacks in the past, they're big arm, big in stature. He's not the most accurate, and then that's well documented. But I think with some good coaching, and they have a good quarterback coach, I think why not take a chance,
Right. He has all the talent in the world. So I think this is a really solid pick here. So I honestly agree with the pick. Last night I was asking you if you were going to go with Jordan Love, but now that I've had a little bit more time to think about it, I think Herbert was the right move here.
I mean,
because of his talent.
When we talk about, I wouldn't be mad if we did in fact take Love. I think his upside, his tools are outstanding, and although he's a little unpolished and he didn't play against the highest level of competition, he's still 6'4", 225, and has, like, some people are saying, like, Patrick Mahomes type skills in terms of, like, his ability to make plays outside the pocket. So I wouldn't mind that, but I think Herbert's the more likely pick here if this were to happen.
Yeah, okay. With the last pick of the first round, number 32, the reigning Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs are going to go with Patrick Queen, the linebacker out of LSU.
Right.
This is the guy who he was the backbone of that LSU defense last year. Obviously, they weren't the best defense in the country, but I think he's a guy who's going to be able to go in and lead. And I think this is a really solid choice here for the Chiefs. At the point where the Chiefs are at, you can still improve on defense. And the greatest thing about the Chiefs is they won the Super Bowl and they still have room to improve, which is hard to believe.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing with Queen, as I mentioned earlier when I was talking about Murray, is he's a little bit better in terms of guarding or covering tight ends and stuff like that, whether it's in man-to-man or zone. But overall, he has the speed to be a sideline-to-sideline, hard-hitting NFL prototypical linebacker. And to get him with the last pick of the first round, I think is very good value for Kansas City. So that's going to be our one and only mock draft, full first-round mock draft. We laid it out in detail for y'all. We also did our NBA under-25 draft, and that turned out to be pretty fun, and I think it was a success for both of us. We will post the teams on Twitter and have something for y'all to vote on to see maybe who drafted the better team or who did better. But overall, a very good podcast, hour 22 minutes, which is a little bit over our usual, but not bad considering we did a full first-round mock draft. So I think Emmy and I will be back on Thursday doing a live stream on YouTube probably, where we are going to be giving our reactions to each pick in the first round of the NFL draft. So if you don't like listening to Mel Kiper and Todd McShay and all those guys, you can we'd appreciate if you tune in to us and our reactions to all the first round picks. But with that, that's going to conclude this episode of the Raw Prospect Podcast. Episode
drop a like on the video.
41. Yep, drop a like, subscribe if you haven't already. And for Emmy Nixon and Michael Ween, we are signing off. So long. We'll see you on Thursday. Goodbye.